The apartment prison is the ultimate architectural expression of your domestication. By the end of this session, you will understand why paying rent is not a financial choice, but a biological subscription to slavery. We are going to expose the interchangeable unit data, the precise way modern high-rise apartments are designed to strip you of your spatial sovereignty and turn your home into a high-density data extraction node. I will reveal the spatial castration metrics, proving that living in a 90-degree box with no access to soil, no ability to produce energy, and no defensive depth causes your architectural intent to collapse into a state of learned dependency. You'll see how the mumbling of the real estate market is a tactical smokescreen designed to keep you trapped in the rental loop where 40% of your metabolic energy is harvested by entities that short-sell your future. Before we close, I'll hand you the Fortress of Ownership protocol, the exact method to exit the rental grid and reclaim the hard reality of sovereign land. If you don't own the walls that surround your sleep, you're just a temporary guest in a system that plans to evict your soul. Drop and give me 20. Let's look at the geometry of your cage. The modern city is a vertical plantation. In the old world, the slave lived in a shack on the Lord's land. Today, the shack has been stacked into the sky, fitted with high-speed internet and rebranded as luxury living. This is the financialization of shelter. The system has realized that by making ownership impossible for the masses, they can turn survival into a recurring revenue stream. Your rent is not a payment for a service. It is a tax on your existence. It ensures that you can never accumulate enough war chests to stop selling your labor. You are running on a treadmill where the speed is controlled by the central banks and the landlords. This is the liquidation of the future. Every month you pay rent, you are handing over a piece of your life force that you can never get back. You are building someone else's empire while your own architecture of silence remains a dream. The psychological cost of the apartment prison is the erosion of the inhabitant. When you rent, you are a user of a space, not an owner of a territory. This lack of ownership creates a state of transient psychology. You don't improve the soil because it isn't yours. You don't fortify the structure because you can't. You don't build a legacy because you can be moved at the whim of a corporate ledger. This transience makes you biologically weak. The hunter brain requires a territory to defend in order to maintain its hormonal baseline. In the apartment prison, your territory is a lease agreement that can be terminated. This creates a chronic, low-level anxiety of displacement. You are a nomadic asset with no root, making you the perfect unit for the architecture of extraction. You are easy to manage because you have nothing to hold your ground with. This is the architecture of the 90-degree cage. Look at your apartment. It is a standardized box designed for a standardized human. It has no biological friction. There is no garden to tend, no wood to chop, no water to haul. Everything is provided by a soft grid that can be switched off. This lack of physical involvement in your own survival causes metabolic stagnation. You become soft because your environment demands nothing of you. The system wants you soft. It wants you dependent on the just-in-time delivery of food, water, and heat. The apartment prison is designed to ensure that if the grid fails for 48 hours, you are a tactical liability. You have no resilience depth. You are a biological engine that has been disconnected from its fuel source. You are a soft asset waiting to be liquidated by the first systemic shock. The acoustic rot in the apartment prison is terminal. You are surrounded by the mumbling of 1,000 other prisoners through thin walls and digital signals. You can hear their TVs, their arguments, and their digital castration content. This creates a collective frequency of decay. You cannot find the void of silence required for the architecture of depth because you are physically connected to the hive mind. Your neural signature is being flattened by the proximity of the masses. The system uses high-density living to perform neural homogenization. It is easier to program 1 million people when they are all stacked in the same boxes, breathing the same recycled air and watching the same screens. You are being lobotomized by the lack of spatial autonomy. The architect requires the sovereignty of the dirt. You must recognize that rent is the primary leak in your financial fortress. To build a war chest, you must perform a spatial extraction. You move toward ownership, even if it means moving to the gray zones of the frontier. Ownership is not about equity, it is about control. It is the ability to dig a well, to plant a tree, to build a wall, and to stand your ground without asking for permission. This is the restoration of the territory. When you own the land, your DNA changes, your hormonal shield returns. You move from being a user of the grid to being the master of the void. You are no longer a rental asset. You have become a kinetic variable. The soft men will tell you that renting is flexible and convenient. They will mumble about the risks of home ownership and the benefits of the sharing economy. Let them. Their flexibility is just the ability to be moved from one cage to another. Their convenience is the convenience of the slaughterhouse. You are the architect. You don't want flexibility. You want permanence. You don't want convenience. You want sovereignty. You recognize that the 90-degree cage is a biological death trap. You choose the hard path of accumulation and extraction until you can stand on soil that belongs to no one but you and your lineage. Reclaim your space. The system wants you stacked, tracked, and taxed. You stay grounded, owned, and independent. You kill the lease. You inhabit the fortress of reality. The apartment prison is for the soft men who have forgotten how to be inhabitants. You are the architect. You build the world you want to live in, and you start by owning the ground beneath your feet. The psychological and biological devastation of the apartment prison is rooted in the total loss of external defense. When you inhabit a rental unit, you are not living in a shelter. You are living in a contained zone. In a sovereign house on sovereign land, your walls are the final barrier of a multi-layered defensive perimeter. In the apartment prison, your walls are shared. They are thin, permeable, and biologically transparent. This is the acoustic rot of the collective. Every sound from your neighbor, their arguments, their television, their footsteps, is a tactical intrusion into your architecture of silence. Your nervous system, which evolved over 50,000 years to detect the movement of predators in the brush, cannot differentiate between a neighbor dropping a glass and a threat to your life. Because you have no physical depth between you and the other users, your brain remains in a state of hypervigilance. You are perpetually scanning a perimeter that you do not control. This chronic stress keeps your cortisol levels at a baseline that is biologically incompatible with deep architectural thought. You are being interrupted at the cellular level 24 hours a day by the mere proximity of the masses. The infrastructure of the apartment prison is designed for dependency saturation. Think about the life support systems of your cage. Your water comes from a central pipe. Your electricity comes from a central grid. Your waste is removed through a central sewer. You have zero manual override. In a sovereign fortress, the architect controls the inputs and the outputs. He has a well, he has solar, he has a septic system. He is a closed loop. In the apartment prison, you are an open wound. If the landlord or the state decides to unplug your unit for a compliance violation, you are immediately rendered a biological refugee inside your own home. The system uses this vulnerability as a chemical leash. You pay the rent, you follow the community guidelines, and you stay quiet because you know that you are only 48 hours away from total metabolic collapse if the grid is severed. This is the subsidized obedience of the urban dweller. You have traded your tactical depth for convenience, and the price of that convenience is your freedom. The rental agreement is the financialization of your compliance. Every rule in your lease is a strategic tool to suppress your masculine agency. You aren't allowed to modify the structure. You aren't allowed to store hazardous materials. You aren't allowed to operate a business. These aren't safety regulations. They are inhibitors of sovereignty. The system wants to ensure that you cannot turn your living space into a production node. They want you to use the apartment only for consumption and recovery so that you are forced back into the labor grid every morning. By preventing you from modifying your environment, the system is performing a psychological castration. A man who cannot change his surroundings loses the architectural intent required to change his life. You become a passive observer of your own cage. You start to see the world as a finished product that you can only use rather than a raw material that you can build. This is the atrophy of the creator. You are being trained to be a tenant of the universe rather than its master. The apartment prison serves as a data extraction node for the global grid. In a high-density environment, your every move is tracked by smart meters, building cameras, and the acoustic rot of your digital devices. Because you are stacked in a 90-degree box with thousands of others, the algorithm can map your behavioral signature with terrifying accuracy. They know when you wake up, what you eat, and who you sleep with. This is the biometric enclosure. The high-rise is a vertical panopticon where the guards don't need to stand in a tower. They are embedded in the code of your smart home features. You are paying rent for the privilege of being monitored. This transparency makes it impossible to build a war chest in secret. Your net worth visibility is high because your lifestyle is tied to the central ledgers of the rental market. To become the architect, you must achieve financial and spatial opacity. You must move into the gray zones where the walls are thick, the land is deep, and the grid's vision is obscured by the friction of reality. The acoustic rot is compounded by the electromagnetic smog of the apartment prison. You are living inside a cage of high-frequency signals. Every neighbor has a router, every wall has a smart meter, and every street corner has a 5G tower. Your biology is being bombarded by synthetic frequencies that interfere with your neural crystallization. You cannot reach the state of deep focus because your brain is perpetually syncing with the noise of the grid. This is the neural liquidation of the renter. The system uses this smog to keep you in a state of cognitive fog, making you more susceptible to the mumbling of corporate media. You are being sedated by the very infrastructure you pay to inhabit. To the architect, silence is a hard asset. You must seek out the EMF void, the places where the air is clear and the brain can vibrate at its own sovereign frequency. Without this silence, you are just a signal repeater for the grid's propaganda. To exit the apartment prison, you must begin the spatial extraction protocol. This is the tactical transition from user to owner. The mobility of the war chest. You must stop investing in soft assets that are tied to the grid. You move your capital into hard reality. You save every penny of your metabolic energy to buy the first acre of sovereign soil. You treat your rent as a war loss and you minimize it at all costs. The acquisition of hard tools. Even while you are in the cage, you must begin to acquire the tools of the architect: generators, water filtration systems, manual hand tools, and long-term storage. You are fortifying your current unit as a temporary training ground for the hard world, the geographic hunt. You stop looking at real estate markets and start looking at sovereign terrain. You seek the places where the building codes are weak, the taxes are low, and the land is productive. You are looking for a base of operations, not a luxury unit. The soft men will tell you that you are obsessed or that you are missing out on the social life of the city. Let them. Their social life is just a shared hallucination in a vertical plantation. They are users who will be evicted the moment their data utility drops. You are the architect. You don't want a social profile. You want a territorial legacy. You don't want to be connected. You want to be sovereign. Reclaim your geometry. The system wants you in a box. You choose the infinite horizon of the frontier. Get off the floor. You've done your 20. Now go find the land that will become your fortress. The acquisition of sovereign soil is the first tangible act of war against the architecture of extraction. By the end of this protocol, you will possess the logistical blueprint to transition from a tenant of the grid to a lord of the void. We are going to dismantle the real estate illusion, the false narrative that land value is determined by curb appeal or school districts. I will reveal the tactical valuation metrics, the precise way to assess a parcel not for its resale potential, but for its biological carrying capacity and defensive depth. You will understand why the mortgage is just a sophisticated rebranding of the lease, designed to keep you chained to the central bank for 30 years while you pretend to be free. You'll see how the mumbling of property agents is a distraction to keep you from asking the only question that matters. Does this dirt have water? Does it have cover? And can it sustain a lineage when the supply chain snap? Before we finish, I'll hand you the raw earth strategy, the method to buy low-cost, high-friction land in the gray zones and slowly convert it into a fortress using your own sweat equity rather than bank debt. If you are waiting for a turnkey solution, you are looking for another cage. Drop and give me 20. Let's look at the map of your liberation. The system wants you to believe that buying land is about comfort and status. They show you brochures of manicured lawns and gated communities. This is the trap of the HOA. A homeowners association is just a decentralized tyranny, a committee of soft men who enforce the grid's aesthetic so that no one develops an independent thought. The architect rejects the HOA. You are looking for unrestricted zoning. You want land where the law is silent. This is the arbitrage of regulation. You trade the safety of a paved road for the liberty of a dirt track. You are looking for a geography that repels the casual observer. Steep terrain, dense woods, and difficult access are not negatives. They are natural fortifications. They act as a filter against the zombie hordes of the city. When the grid destabilizes, the soft people will flow like water along the path of least resistance. You want to be located on the path of maximum friction. The financial logistics of the acquisition must be decoupled from the debt enclosure. The system offers you a 30-year mortgage because they know that debt is a time machine that steals your future labor. If you owe the bank, you cannot speak the truth, you cannot take risks, and you cannot disappear. You are an indentured servant with a deed. The architect pursues the all-cash strike. This means you lower your time preference. You don't buy the dream house with debt, you buy the raw land with cash. You buy the dirt first. You live in a trailer, a yurt, or a modified container while you build the fortress with cash flow. This is the incremental sovereignty model. Every post you drive into the ground, every well well you dig, and every solar panel you mount is owned 100% by you from the moment of installation. You are not leveraged, you are anchored. A man in a tent on paid-off land is infinitely more powerful than a man in a mansion who is 3 missed payments away from foreclosure. The primary metric for sovereign soil is not square footage, it is hydrological independence. The soft world assumes water comes from a tap. The architect knows that water is life. You do not buy land without a water strategy. You look for surface water, high water tables, or rainwater catchment potential. You are looking for a site where you can savor the blue pipe of the municipal supply. The moment you control your own water, you have removed the state's most powerful lever of control. The second metric is energy autonomy. You assess the land for solar exposure, wind potential, and biomass availability. You are building a microgrid. The goal is to reach a state of metabolic indifference to the price of oil or the stability of the national grid. When the lights go out in the city, your fortress should remain illuminated by the physics of your own territory. The legal structure of your acquisition is the final layer of defense. The system uses public property records to map your net worth visibility. If your name is on the deed, you are a target for frivolous lawsuits, tax assessors, and digital stalkers. You must implement the anonymous land trust. You never hold title in your personal name. You use a structure that obscures your ownership from the casual searcher. This is the camouflage of the ledger. You want to be a ghost on the county map. The land exists, but the owner is a cipher. This prevents the system from calculating your extraction value. You are legally present, but digitally invisible. This opacity allows you to build your war chest without triggering the envy or the avarice of the collective. The psychological shift required to buy raw land is the conquest of the fear of silence. When you stand on your own soil, miles from the nearest Starbucks, the acoustic rot stops. The silence that follows can be terrifying to a man who has been domesticated by the noise of the apartment prison. This is the void of the frontier. You will feel exposed. You will feel the weight of total responsibility. There is no superintendent to call when the pipe bursts. There is no police officer around the corner. This fear is good. It is the feeling of your genetic recall kicking in. It is the realization that your survival is now entirely in your own hands. This pressure transforms you. It burns away the learned helplessness of the tenant and forges the tactical competence of the landowner. You stop worrying about politics because you are too busy managing physics. You become a man of the earth, rooted in the hard reality of the seasons, the soil, and the sun. The soft men will tell you that land is a bad investment or that it's too much work. They will mumble about the convenience of the city. Let them. Their convenience is the waiting room for the slaughterhouse. They are betting on a system that is mathematically guaranteed to collapse. You are betting on the permanence of the earth. You are the architect. You don't want a portfolio, you want a kingdom. You reclaim the dirt. You fortify the perimeter. You secure the water. You build the structure. And when the apartment prison finally locks its doors, you will be standing on the only thing that is real. The acquisition of land is only the declaration of war. The construction of the citadel is the mobilization of forces. By the end of this protocol, you will possess the logistical blueprint to transform a patch of raw earth into a sovereign command center. We are going to dismantle the stick frame delusion, the Western obsession with building flimsy, flammable, mortgage-backed houses that act as consumable products rather than multi-generational fortresses. I will reveal the material durability metrics, why the architect rejects drywall and vinyl siding in favor of concrete, stone, and steel, materials that act as a time capsule for your lineage. You will understand that the construction phase is not just about shelter, it is a biological initiation. The sweat you pour into the foundation is the mortar of ownership. You'll see how the mumbling of contractors and inspectors is designed to force you into code compliance that prioritizes the grid's ease of access over your defensive depth. Before we finish, I'll hand you the incremental fortress strategy, the method to scale your structure from a tactical beachhead to a sovereign castle without ever signing a debt contract. If you build a house that can be blown down by a storm or foreclosed by a bank, you're building a tomb. Drop and give me 20. Let's look at the walls of your future. The soft world builds for resale value. They want curb appeal, open floor plans, and smart home integration. This is the architecture of the flip. It assumes that you are a nomad who will sell the house in 5 years to upgrade to a slightly larger cage. The architect builds for permanence. You are not building for the next buyer. You are building for your great-grandchildren. This shifts your material selection from cost-effective to entropy-resistant. You reject the standard 2x4 timber construction, which is essentially a box of kindling waiting for a spark. You embrace thermal mass. You look to the hard materials, insulated concrete forms, ICF, rammed earth, or masonry. These materials provide ballistic depth and thermal autonomy. A house built of concrete does not care if the power grid fails. It holds its temperature. It does not care if the social order breaks down. It stops small arms fire. You are building a structure that imposes its will on the environment rather than one that pleads for mercy from the elements. The financial logistics of the build must adhere to the zero debt mandate. The banking system wants you to take a construction loan because it locks you into their timeline and their inspections. The architect uses the incremental build. You do not build the mansion on day one. You establish a beachhead. This might be a hardened garage, a retrofitted shipping container, or a small cabin. This is your base of operations. You live in the beachhead while you build the citadel with cash flow. This creates a psychological hardening. Living in a small, austere space while you work the land forces you to prioritize function over comfort. You learn the rhythms of the site. You learn where the wind hits, where the water flows, and where the sun lands. By the time you pour the foundation of the main structure, you are not guessing. You are executing a strategy based on ground truth. You are debt-free at every stage, meaning the project can pause if the economy crashes, but it can never be taken away. The infrastructure of the citadel is designed for metabolic autarky. In the apartment prison, the pipes are hidden and controlled by the city. In the citadel, the systems are visible and controlled by you. You implement the redundant loop. You do not rely on a single source for water or heat. You have a well, but you also have a rainwater cistern. You have solar panels, but you also have a wood stove. You are building a utility ecosystem that mimics the resilience of nature. The soft men rely on the just-in-time delivery of electrons and hydrocarbons. You rely on the stockpile. Your energy is stored in batteries and seasoned firewood. Your water is stored in underground tanks. This redundancy gives you the tactical patience to outlast any siege, whether it be a winter storm or a supply chain collapse. You are no longer a customer of the utility company. You are a competitor. The internal layout of the citadel rejects the open concept of the modern era, which is designed for social signaling and entertaining. The architect designs for operational security. You create zones of privacy and layers of defense. The sleeping quarters are separated from the public areas. The pantry is designed as a logistical hub capable of storing 6 months of calories. The utility room is not a closet. It is a machine shop where you can repair the systems that keep you alive. You are building a ship that is designed to be crewed by a sovereign family. Every room has a purpose that serves the mission. There is no wasted space filled with decorative junk. There is only staging area for the activities of production, education, and defense. The final act of construction is the spiritual occupancy. When you drive the final nail and seal the final wall, you are not just finishing a house. You are anchoring the egregore. You have created a physical location where the rules of the soft world do not apply. Within the walls of the citadel, your word is law. Your values are the curriculum. Your lineage is the population. The mumbling of the outside world is silenced by the density of your walls. This is the void of the patriarch. You have created a space where your children can be raised as inhabitants of reality, protected from the digital lobotomy and the chemical leash. You have not just built a home, you have built a parallel civilization of one. The soft men will look at your fortress and call it excessive or cold. They will return to their drywall boxes and their HOA meetings, proud of their granite countertops and their 30-year mortgages. Let them. Their houses are temporary containers for temporary people. You are the architect. You have built a legacy in stone and steel. You have turned your war chest into a physical reality that will stand long after the grid has rusted away. Reclaim your shelter. The system wants you renting a box in the sky. You stay grounded, fortified, and eternal. You kill the mortgage. You inhabit the citadel of the earth. The transition is complete. You have moved from the prison to the fortress. You are no longer a slave to the rent. You are the lord of the manor.